All right, folks, this is both funny and fascinating. It appears that the Epstein scandal and the subsequent vote to release the Epstein Files have backfired spectacularly on both Donald Trump and Republican Speaker Mike Johnson in ways that are stunning even them. Johnson was visibly panicked on camera once he learned that Republicans in the Senate refused to play ball with him and play games with the Epstein Files because he wanted them to delay the release of the Epstein Files and add amendments and make modifications, anything to gum up the works. And instead, Republicans in the Senate said, nah, we're good. We're just going to pass this with unanimous consent and send it straight to Trump's desk. So Johnson is panicking on camera and saying that he has to consult with Trump on what to do next. And this comes as backlash is directed specifically at Mike Johnson over the Epstein Files from even Epstein victims. This is bad news for Trump and Johnson both. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, folks, let's start with this. This is Mike Johnson basically visibly shitting his pants in fear about the latest Epstein Files development.
Any reaction to Leader Thune seeing the bill without adding amendments or changing it?
I'm deeply disappointed in this outcome. I think I've been at the state dinner. I don't know. I was just told that Chuck Schumer rushed it to the floor and put it out there preemptively. It needed amendments. I just spoke to the president about that. We'll see what happens.
So do you think he may veto it? You say you spoke to the president?
I'm not saying that.
Is he supportive of it in its current form?
We both have concerns about it, so we'll see. I was standing there with the Crown Prince. We couldn't talk.
Are you frustrated in the majority leader? Are you upset with the majority leader?
Mike Johnson is scared shitless, and apparently Trump is too. I just spoke with Trump about it. This didn't go the way they wanted. The way they wanted, of course, was this vote to never make it to the floor. They were hoping to defeat the discharge petition, which required 218 signatures. And Mike Johnson delayed for 50 days the swearing in of a newly elected Democratic congresswoman because the discharge petition was stuck at 217 signatures. And so by delaying her swearing in, he was delaying what we now know to be the inevitable. And it gave Trump time to try to pressure publicly and privately the four Republicans to back off, to withdraw their support. They failed. Once this got to the floor, it backfired further still. Only one Republican, only one person in the Senate voted against the release of the Epstein Files. It was that overwhelming. But Mike Johnson was hoping. He's like, okay, maybe we can salvage this. Maybe the Republicans in the Senate will add amendments that we believe are necessary, even though they were not, and just delay, buy Trump more time to potentially persuade people in the Senate to not take up this vote, all these things. And instead, it just blitzed right through. Johnson and Trump are stunned. And Democratic Congressman Khanna weighed in on Johnson's palpable fear at getting totally humiliated.
Are you confident that everything will be redacted that needs to be redacted?
I am. And the speaker looked frazzled last night. I mean, I think he has just totally lost it. Look, he's attacking the bill and he's not showing up to hear the survivors. The survivors wanted this bill. The survivors' lawyers helped us craft this bill. Then he's voting for a bill that he's criticized. He tells Thune, go amend it, and Thune basically ignores him, and he's lost the confidence of half the people in his own caucus.
Yeah, it's a true knives out moment for Mike Johnson because, of course, MAGA is much more likely to criticize Mike Johnson than they are Donald Trump, and I'll give you just evidence of that in just a second. But it's not just Khanna mocking Mike Johnson, and Johnson deserves it. Epstein victims and survivors are also infuriated with Mike Johnson. They're infuriated with Trump, but they're also infuriated with Johnson, too. Take a look.
Republican, you've spoken about that. I wonder what your reaction is to Speaker Johnson saying that this vote was a political show vote by the Democrats.
Well, I was present in the room when they were doing the votes, as well as all the survivors. And I can say the only theatrics I saw was from him. I think some of his comments were on that fine line. This is not a hoax. There is no theater coming from us or the survivors on our end. I'm appalled by him in general, and I've lost a lot of respect by him. Just the back and forth with Adelita Grojalva. You will never convince me.
She was a deciding vote at the time for the petition. That's why you say that. Okay.
Yes, and you will never convince me that shutting down the government for 50 days, and in those 50 days was when we needed them the most. And in those 50 days, we don't know what happened. We just know that you wouldn't swear not elite the girl halva, and I'm sure there was more pressing issues and policies that came to light in that decision making. But this has been an issue that has been very important to the American people and something that he campaigned on. And when you have a policy or procedures that need to be done for the American people, I feel it's in America's best interest and the people's best interest if you follow through and get things done instead of just closing off. Surely they are the adults. Surely they can figure it out.
Well, of course they could. The problem is that they didn't want to. They had to figure it out. They knew this was politically damaging for Trump, and that's why they did what they did. That's, again, Haley Robson, who is a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein. We're going to play another clip from her, and then we're going to hear from a top MAGA pundit who is also losing his shit on Mike Johnson because he won't do it against Trump.
As he held in this press conference yesterday, that this is a show vote, and that really he had been wanting amendments to it because this was a show vote in terms of, you know, the Democrats, Republicans coming together to vote for this. But he said that the majority of the survivors for Epstein have not spoken out, and he was concerned that this could harm innocent people and or other survivors who want to stay private or people who have nothing to do with this.
Well, no, that's actually inaccurate in my opinion, because the survivors that don't want to be public are Jane Does. They've been protected, and their names have been redacted this whole time as Jane Does. The only people that you need to worry about are the survivors that are in those files and documents that are public and that are on the right side of things and whose names have never been redacted. I'm one of those people, and I've been very vocal on, I don't care if my name is redacted or not. My survivor sisters are important to me. And if that means that my name doesn't get redacted, but the files come out, that is the right thing to do. And that is it. There's no conversation that needs to partake in any of this. And honestly, this is where the administration failed the American people, not just the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. You lose all credibility when you go back on your promises to the American people and the survivors that you campaigned on in 2024. You lose all credibility when you play the flip-flop game and you start intimidating people in your own party like Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene that are on the right side of things. That's when you lose credibility. And you don't just lose credibility with your party, you lose credibility with your constituents. And I don't think Trump understands who some of his constituents are.
Yeah, so again, she's laying into, this is a Republican Epstein survivor laying into laying into Mike Johnson and Donald Trump over their, you know, really scandalous mistreatment of the Epstein survivors and victims by trying to, you know, engage in this cover-up. But again, it's not just Democratic Congresspeople. It's not even just Epstein survivors. It's also MAGA pundits who have been loyal to Donald Trump and Mike Johnson. They're afraid, many of them, of directly crossing Trump, but they're happy to scapegoat Mike Johnson.
All right, enough. I've heard it, and I'm done with it. I've heard it, and I'm sick of it. Honestly, I'm sick of it. Life's not fair, you know? Like, sometimes there are just, like, unfortunate political realities. Things snowball, and life's just not fair. And really terrible stuff has happened to me in the public arena, and so on and so forth, and every single day. Like, just, you know, like, just check the comment section. It's just like, this is the world that you play in, right? And and people get bulldozed, and it sucks sometimes, and it's just not fair. But there are also political realities, and the political reality of the current moment is that the evils of what Jeffrey Epstein did and the protection around Jeffrey Epstein, the racket of government protection around this international pederast that let him out of jail, that gave him a slap on the wrist, that gave him his own wing of the prison, that gave everybody immunity around him, that allowed him to operate and abuse these women. That's more important to destroy. And for the American people to understand what that was. And sometimes you just got to do things for the greater good. Now, it was Mike Johnson just a couple of short months ago that was on our program, sitting just a few feet from me going, we got to just release everything. And so that was the right take. It's always been the right take. This is about marketing. Don't try and explain this kind of stuff to people. Look, listen, you got yourselves into this problem.
So he's mad at Mike Johnson. Now, of course, Benny Johnson's really stupid, really dishonest, really unprincipled, and should be made fun of because, of course, the reason Mike Johnson is doing this and Benny Johnson is so outraged is because Trump is telling him to. Mike Johnson is not departing from Trump on this. He is trying to execute Trump's cover-up of the Epstein Files. And so a principled person who's mad at Mike Johnson is necessarily mad at Trump. And if you're not, then you're unprincipled and you're a loser, and we have no reason to take what you say seriously. But Mike Johnson should take it seriously because it shows, oh my God, it is a cult, but it's a cult for Trump. And the cultists are very reluctant to criticize Trump, even though he's objectively at fault. And so they're happy to scapegoat you, Mike Johnson. So that's part of the reason why he's in deep shit and why he's so afraid. It's not just because he failed Trump. It's because he knows it's his political ass on the line, even as far as MAGA is concerned. So there you have it, folks. Trump and Mike Johnson are totally screwed. They're panicking, and we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.